They said no one could get past these gates. But tonight, I'm not asking for permission.
They said no one could get past the iron gates without clearance. The guard had stopped ministers, CEOs, even military officials. But that night, when the stranger approached, something felt different. His confidence was unsettling. The guards hand moved toward his weapon, ready to block the man's path, until a single flash of plastic froze him in place. What was on that keycard? You're about to find out. Stay with me, and don't forget to subscribe if you love stories full of twists. The night was unusually quiet, the kind of silence that makes every sound echo twice as loud. The government compound stood like a fortress in the middle of the city, with towering fences, cameras that never blinked, and guards who didn't smile. No ordinary man had business there, and yet under the pale glow of the streetlight, a figure approached. Slow, deliberate, unafraid. His name was Daniel Cross. To most people, he was a ghost, a man who kept to himself, changed apartments often, and never left a trail. No one knew what he really did for a living. Some called him an ex-soldier, others whispered about covert missions. But to Daniel, none of that mattered anymore. What mattered tonight was the door he needed to walk through. The guard on duty, Corporal Harris, was not a man easily shaken. 10 years of service had sharpened his instincts. He could sense lies before words were even spoken, and he carried himself with the rigid pride of someone who believed rules kept the world from burning. To him, anyone approaching without clearance was either a fool or a threat. As Daniel drew closer, Harris squared his shoulders and raised a hand. "Stop right there." His voice was firm, practiced, carrying the weight of authority. Daniel didn't slow. His eyes didn't flicker. Each step was measured, like he already knew the outcome of this encounter. The street lamp caught the outline of a badge-shaped object clipped to his jacket, though Harris couldn't yet see the details. It was a simple moment. One man doing his job, another walking with quiet determination. But beneath the surface, a collision was coming. Between authority and mystery, duty and secrets. And it all began with one word from Harris: identification. Corporal Harris extended his arm, palm open like a barrier in the night. His eyes narrowed, watching every flicker of movement on Daniel's face. Identification, he repeated, this time sharper, the edge of command cutting through the silence. Daniel finally stopped, only a few feet from the guard's post. He tilted his head slightly, as though considering whether to obey or test. The limits of authority. The faintest smirk tugged at the corner of his lips, but no card appeared. "Sir, this is restricted property," Harris barked. "You don't move another inch unless you show me clearance. I don't care who you think you are." His hand hovered just above his holster now, a clear warning that this was not a negotiation. Daniel's voice was calm, unsettlingly calm. "Clearance. You'll see it when the time is right." That single line was enough to light the fuse. To Harris, it wasn't just defiance, it was an insult. He'd faced arrogant businessmen before, diplomats who thought their names alone could open doors, but this was different. The man's tone wasn't prideful, it was assured, as if he knew something Harris didn't. Behind them, the faint hum of security cameras buzzed. Harris imagined the control room watching, waiting to see how he handled this breach. His pride stiffened. He wouldn't be humiliated. "You have exactly 3 seconds, Harris growled, "to show me proper identification before I escalate this situation." The air thickened with tension. Daniel's eyes flicked once toward the steel gates behind Harris, then back to the guard himself, like he was measuring the obstacle. He didn't flinch, didn't stutter. Instead, he let the silence drag out, making Harris feel the weight of every second. And then Daniel reached into his jacket. The guard's pulse surged. His hand snapped down on the holster, ready to draw, when Daniel slowly pulled out a worn leather wallet. From it, he slid a thin piece of plastic, a keycard. The lamplight glinted off it, but Harris couldn't make out the insignia yet. He froze. His instincts screamed to seize control, yet something about that card, the way Daniel held it, the quiet confidence in his eyes, made Harris hesitate. For the first time that night, Corporal Harris felt doubt. The keycard glimmered under the dim light, but Harris still couldn't make out the insignia. His chest tightened. Something about the way Daniel held it, steady, unwavering, made it feel more dangerous than any weapon. "Let me see it," Harris ordered, trying to sound firm, though the edge of uncertainty crept into his voice. Daniel didn't hand it over. Instead, he tilted it just enough for the light to catch a silver emblem embossed on the surface. Harris's heart jolted. That emblem didn't belong to any division he recognized. "Where did you get that?" Harris pressed, his voice sharper now. Daniel's reply was like a knife. "You already know I can't answer that." The words hit Harris harder than he expected. His training screamed that this was a bluff. But the calmness, the precision in Daniel's tone, it didn't match the behavior of an intruder. Intruders panicked. Intruders lied. This man carried certainty. Behind Harris, the radio at his post crackled. A voice from the control room. "Unit 7, do you have visual? Who is that approaching?" Harris hesitated, his thumb hovering over the radio switch. If he reported what he saw, he'd sound unsure, and uncertainty was weakness. He chose silence. Daniel took one slow step forward. Not a rush, not a challenge, just a measured move that made Harris instinctively tense. His hand hovered on his weapon again, but he didn't draw. "Stop." The command came out harsher than intended. Daniel's smirk deepened, not out of arrogance, but as though he could see through Harris's crumbling resolve. "If I wanted to force my way through," he said evenly, "we wouldn't be having this conversation." That was a beat Harris didn't expect. The man wasn't threatening him. He was stating a fact. Another twist came when Daniel slowly extended the card closer, almost offering, but not quite. Just enough for Harris to catch a clearer glimpse. There it was, the emblem again, a black crest with a single coded number underneath, and Harris's stomach dropped. That code wasn't supposed to exist anymore. His mind raced, torn between duty and fear. The cameras hummed above, recording every second. The man in front of him stood perfectly still, waiting. And in that unbearable silence, Harris realized, if he made the wrong move, he wouldn't just be breaking protocol. He might be opening a door that was never meant to open. Harris's throat went dry as he stared at the emblem. It wasn't just unrecognizable, it was impossible. Every unit, every clearance level had its own symbol, but this one, this was something older, something that wasn't supposed to exist anymore. He tried to steady his voice. This doesn't mean anything. You can't just wave a piece of plastic and expect to walk in." Daniel tilted his head, eyes locked on. Harris like a predator gauging its prey. "If it meant nothing," he said softly, "why are your hands shaking?" Harris glanced down and cursed under his breath. His hand was trembling, hovering above his weapon as if his own body had betrayed him. Anger surged, covering the cracks. Of fear. "Answer me now. Where did you get that clearance?" Daniel didn't flinch. He simply held the card closer, letting the guard see the string of numbers etched beneath the emblem. Harris's breath hitched. Those numbers were familiar, but only because he'd seen them once, buried in a classified training manual, under a section labeled "Revoked Access, Do Not Acknowledge." That section was supposed to be history, shut down, erased, but here it was, dangling inches from his face. Behind him, the control room voice crackled again. "Unit 7, respond. Who are you talking to out there?" Harris reached for the radio, then stopped, sweat sliding down his temple. If he reported this, he risked being laughed at, or worse, investigated. Daniel leaned in just slightly, his voice a whisper now, but sharp as a blade. "If you call them, they'll only tell you one thing. Let me through." The guard's chest tightened. Everything in his training screamed to stop this man. But his gut, the same instinct that had saved him countless times, was warning him to think twice. Harris's finger hovered over the trigger of his radio. The silence between them stretched like a wire ready to snap. One decision could end his career, or change everything he thought he knew about the facility he guarded. And then Daniel spoke, 4 quiet words that turned Harris's blood to ice. "They sent me back." The words hit harder than a gunshot. They sent me back. Corporal Harris's mind spun. Back? From where? Who were they? He had guarded this compound for a decade, sworn to protocols older than his own career, but nothing in his training prepared him for this moment. His hand hovered above his holster, sweat dripping into his eyes. Daniel didn't move. He stood with the same calm intensity, the keycard balanced between 2 fingers. His posture wasn't aggressive. It was inevitable, like gravity itself pulling Harris into submission. "Back from what?" Harris finally asked, his voice low, almost breaking. Daniel's gaze didn't waver. "From a mission your superiors buried so deep, even their successors pretend it never existed. You think this place protects secrets, but tonight you're staring at one." A shiver cut through Harris's spine. He had always believed in the chain of command, in the righteousness of duty. But now, standing before this man with a forbidden clearance card, he felt like a pawn guarding a board he couldn't even see. "I don't care about your riddles," Harris snapped, forcing strength into his tone. "You still don't pass." Without confirmation, Daniel stepped closer, only 1 pace, but it felt like the ground shifted beneath them. He held the card higher, letting Harris see the etched sequence again. And this time, Harris recognized the final digits. They matched the emergency override codes drilled into him during his very first day of service. Codes no guard was ever supposed to use. Codes that, if presented, meant stand down immediately. His stomach sank. "You know what this means," Daniel said quietly. "You've known it since training. You just never thought you'd see it in your lifetime." Harris's mouth went dry. He had known. Every soldier heard whispers, legends of a shadow unit that worked above jurisdiction, above even the highest ranks. It was the kind of thing you dismissed as myth, something instructors used to keep rookies in line. But here it was, real, undeniable. Harris's pride wavered, but his loyalty clung desperately. "If I let you in without clearance, I could be court-martialed." Daniel's eyes softened, though his tone stayed razor-sharp. "And if you don't, you'll be standing in the way of something far bigger than your career. Think carefully. Corporal, tonight you choose whether you guard a gate or protect the truth." The cameras buzzed above, the control room still demanding answers through the radio. Harris realized with a jolt, every second he hesitated was being recorded. Someone, somewhere, would review this footage. His indecision would be immortalized. Daniel seemed to sense it. Slowly, he turned the card around, pressing it against the electronic scanner built into the guard post. The machine beeped. A red light blinked, then turned green. Access granted. Harris staggered back. The system itself had recognized the card. There was no trick, no forgery. Whatever Daniel carried, it was authorized at the deepest level. Daniel pocketed the card, eyes never leaving the guard. "You did your job," he said softly. "That's more than most can say." For a moment, Harris wanted to stop him anyway, to cling to his pride. But the truth was undeniable. The gate's heavy locks disengaged with a thunderous clank, metal grinding against metal. Daniel stepped forward. As he passed, Harris caught the faintest look in his eyes, calm, determined, but burdened. This wasn't a man seeking power. This was a man carrying weight too heavy for most to bear. The massive gates opened just enough for Daniel to slip through. As they closed behind him, Harris felt the silence crash back down. He was left standing alone, the echo of Daniel's words haunting him. "They sent me back." Harris knew he would never see the world the same way again. The night returned to silence, but Corporal Harris's thoughts screamed louder than ever. He had followed the rules, trained to see the world in black and white, protocol and breach, clearance and trespass. Yet in one encounter those rigid lines blurred. He realized something no manual had ever taught him. Sometimes the truth hides behind what we're told to ignore. Daniel was gone, swallowed by the compound's shadows, but his presence lingered like a scar on Harris's conscience. The emblem on that keycard, the numbers etched into its surface, proved that history isn't erased just because someone orders it to be. Secrets don't vanish, they wait. And when they resurface, they test not just systems, but the people, sworn to protect them. For Harris, the moral cut deep. Obedience without thought can make you blind, but doubt without courage can make you powerless. The balance, he now understood, was knowing when to follow orders and when to listen to the whisper of instinct that says, "There's more here than you're being told." That's not just a soldier's lesson. It's a universal truth. In life, we're all guards at one gate or another, protecting jobs, families, reputations, or beliefs, and every so often, someone or something appears that challenges those walls. Do we block the way, clinging to rules out of fear? Or do we pause, question, and consider what lies beyond? Harris chose to let doubt in, and that single hesitation revealed a truth greater than any protocol. Sometimes the things we're told to deny are the very things that define who we become. So remember this: courage isn't just in drawing a weapon or standing your ground. Sometimes courage is in listening, in recognizing when the world is bigger than your training, and in daring to face the unknown. And if this story gripped you, if the twists, the suspense, the moral struck a chord, don't let it fade away when the video ends. Hit subscribe, share this with someone who loves stories that make them think, and leave a comment about the moment that hit you the hardest. Your voice keeps these stories alive. Your support keeps them reaching new ears. Because just like Harris, at that gate, your choice matters. And maybe, just maybe, the next story will challenge the gate you've been guarding all along.